Welcome back to the workshop. Today we are going to put aside the 3D printers, the CNC routers, and the laser cutters, and we're going to pull out the kitchen mixer. I'm going to show you how to make these awesome skull cupcakes with gooey, oozy, bloody filling. Alright, I think every maker should explore in the kitchen. Baking is like a fun, magical chemistry set, and most of the things you get, even if they turn out bad, are still pretty yummy. Today we're going to cover a few things. I'm going to show you how to make cupcakes from scratch, or from a box. I'm going to show you how to cut them and make these cool little skulls, and you're going to get to watch as I try to figure out what kind of filling will actually work to give like that cool, bloody, gooey inside effect and what doesn't work. Now, if you're already an experienced baker or chef, this is probably going to be frustrating and annoying, but for the rest of you, follow along. We're going to have some fun. We're going to eat some delicious stuff. Baking cupcakes or cake from scratch is actually pretty easy. I mean, the ingredient list can look a little daunting, and when you read the instructions it can sound a little daunting, and if you screw up it's really frustrating, but it's actually easier than it looks. But hey, who are we trying to impress? Go get a box of cake mix or cupcake mix and give it a try. It's so easy, and the results are almost always good. Nobody has ever been given a cupcake, bitten into it, and turned their nose up and gone, ew, this was made from a box. Hasn't happened. Get yourself a box, make it easy on yourself if you've never done this before. But if you want the joy and fun of making it from scratch and honing some skills, follow along. All right, here's our ingredient list for our cupcakes. I'm gonna just blast through these real quick. Don't worry, it's in the description below, okay? Here we go. You're gonna need 1 1/3 cups all-purpose flour, 1 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, not baking soda, baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 cup of unsalted butter, 1 cup granulated sugar, 2 large eggs, a splash of vanilla extract, and 1/2 cup sour cream. Now before you get started, like preferably the morning before you get started or the day before you get started, put that butter out. It's 1 full stick of butter. Put it out to soften. For some reason here in the States, most people keep their butter in the fridge and it gets really hard, and that makes it hard to mix. Put it out, let it soften up. Don't worry, it's not gonna go bad. It's not gonna melt all over your countertops unless your house is like 90 degrees inside. It's just gonna soften up and be easy to mix. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees. I do this when I get started mixing everything together so it's ready to go when I'm done. The first step for our cupcakes is we're gonna take a bowl and we're gonna throw our flour, salt, and baking powder into it. Whisk it all together, mix it up real good. Don't stress about it though, like you're not gonna hurt anything, just mix it up. Now we're gonna go over to the mixer. Throw in your butter. It should be soft like I was saying earlier. Get your mixer going to stir or to beat, or just pretty much mixing it up. Add the sugar. You're gonna beat this around for a while until it's kind of like gained a little volume, gotten a little bit fluffy, just so it's mixed up. Like again, don't stress about it. This is supposed to be fun, right? At this point, you're gonna start putting in your eggs. You don't just dump them all in at once. You put them in one at a time slowly. There's reasons for this, I'm sure. I can't really remember what they are, though it's been explained to me, and frankly it doesn't matter. Just do it. I mean, come on. Then after you've mixed your eggs in, you're gonna add a splash of vanilla. It's like, I don't know, like a teaspoon. Just throw a splash in there. You're not gonna hurt it. You want it to taste more like vanilla? Add a little more. You add too much, it's just gonna taste a lot like vanilla. Not the end of the world. And then at the end, put in your sour cream. This helps it kind of have like a real rich flavor in your mouth and stay moist and sticky. Now that you've got one bowl with your dry stuff and one bowl with this wet kind of concoction, what you're gonna do is you're gonna set your mixer to stir it up, and you're gonna slowly add in your powders from your dry stuff. You dump some in, you let it mix, you get it off of the sides so that it mixes well, and you keep going until it's all mixed together well. Now, a lot of recipes are going to warn you not to over mix it, and that is a concern. If you just turn your mixer up full blast and just beat the heck out of it, then you're going to end up with cupcakes or cake that kind of flattens out because you've mixed it too well. It's not the end of the world, it's still gonna taste good. Just mix it till the stuff is mixed together and then stop. You're probably gonna have little clumps in there still. Don't worry about it, they taste good. At this point, you're gonna grease up your pans. There's a link to this skull-shaped pan down below. Now, some people use the plastic or the paper liners for cupcakes, and that makes cleanup easier. And that's also really great if you're gonna be transporting them, taking them to people and handing them around. It's great to use those paper cups. I wanted to play with some and cut them into different shapes, so I didn't want those cups on them. So I just oiled up my pan with an oil spray, and they pop out just fine. You don't need the paper. After you've got these filled about half to 2/3 full, you're gonna throw them in your oven and bake them for about 20 minutes. So you can tell they're done when you take a toothpick or a knife or something and just stab one of them, and you pull it out and there's no batter on it anymore. If you overcook them a little bit, no big deal. You undercook them a little bit, probably no big deal unless they're like raw inside. Anyway, you'll figure it out. Take them out of the oven and let them cool for a while. This cooling is important. When they first come out of the oven, they're gonna be really just delicious looking and you're gonna wanna play with them and dig in, but they kind of are gonna be sticky, and especially the ones you made from scratch, they're gonna be a little bit sticky and they're gonna come apart easily. You gotta let them cool down a little bit. Then you can play with them. So, since my gooey, bloody filling was a bit of an experiment in this video, I'm gonna leave that for last, and we'll jump ahead to icing and making these into skulls. It's so easy. First off, the ones that come out shaped like skulls already is cheating, right? But it's wonderful. Don't they look awesome? So there's those. But then your regular cupcakes, all you gotta do is cut a little bit off of each side and then narrow in a chin a little bit. Super easy. Put a little bit of white icing on top of that, and you've got a skull. Some black icing to draw in some eyes and a nose and some teeth, and you're done. Yeah, these don't look as awesome as what you're gonna find like from a professional chef, but I guarantee they taste awesome. Now for this, I'm using whipped icing. Whipped icing is usually softer than like a buttercream icing, and that makes spreading on there easier. If you're a big klutz like me, spreading icing on a delicate cake means you're gonna rip it apart if it's buttercream, more often than not. So I get the whipped stuff, or I make the whipped stuff, but that's a different video. So what do you do with all these pieces that are left over whenever you're cutting out your skull shapes? Well, that's easy. You feed them to your dog, right? Or your less athletic dog. Or maybe your cat, or possibly your goats. Now let's talk about filling. I wanted to get that kind of, you cut it open and there's gooey blood and guts, and there's a few things to consider here. I didn't want to just research and do like what everybody else did. I kind of wanted to play with it. That's half the fun of baking for me, is just playing with things and learning new things. And I, wanted to try out some stuff. So I thought, what would make a good filling for these skull cupcakes? There's strawberry preserves, which I thought would be delicious, but maybe a little rigid. Pudding seems like it would work. It seems like it would kind of ooze out if you did it right. Cherry pie filling or strawberry pie filling seems like it would be good. Or just straight up syrup, like strawberry syrup, like what you put on ice cream. So I figured I'd try them all. I had some ideas of what I thought might work and not work, but the best way to try it out is just to try it out, right? There are lots of ways that you can put a filling into something like this. You could get a fancy bag with a needle-like attachment and squirt it in. You could use an apple corer. You can also just cut a hole in it, and that's what I did. So, filling one of these cupcakes is easy. You cut a hole, you pull the top off, you scoop in some of your filling, you pinch off some of that extra cupcake that you have now, and you put the top back on. Easily done, except there's a lot less space inside of a cupcake than you'd think. So you end up cutting a hole, reaching in there and digging out most of it and putting that top back on, and you end up with maybe more filling than cupcake. So those results were they were okay. They tasted delicious, which I think is the most important part. They tasted delicious. But they didn't look like what you want for a video. You want to cut it open and just have tons of this stuff just oozing out. So here's what I actually had to do to get that pretty oozing shot. I took one of these skulls and I just gutted it. I cut off the back and I ended up pinching out almost all of the cake from inside and then filling it with this cherry pie filling and then putting a cap on the back. And there you go. That's not really a feasible way to serve these to people. I mean, I guess it is. If you were doing it on a plate, as a dessert, then that would totally be the way to go. But if you were wanting to hand out cupcakes to people, that's not really the best result. Probably the pudding would be the best because it held together the best and didn't destroy the cupcake with the moisture from the pudding. Although I would probably try to find a pudding that's a little bit more red. Thanks for joining me on this fun little experiment. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see more stuff from the kitchen, let me know. I'm happy to do more complicated things or even simpler things for our viewers out there that want to play in the kitchen. Just let me know down in the comments what you'd like to see us make. And we'll be back very soon with some other projects back in the workshop.